have Erik Nyheim. He's the Chief Commercial Officer for Wallenius Wilhelmsen Logistics, and he's going to talk to you about what we have coming up on the ocean side of the business. Erik?
Thank you, Bill. That's a lot of external factors already today, and I'll give you just one more. From our side, we believe there is one factor that stands out to have a very noticeable impact on finished vehicle logistics, namely the upcoming sulfur emissions. And I'm sure most of you here have heard about the regulations. I'm less sure everyone understands their significance. The sulfur regulations impact bunker costs, which for any shipping company is by far the largest cost element. And what we're talking about is a 50% increase on that cost. So before moving on, I'd like to stress that we fully recognize that tens of thousands of premature deaths every year are caused because of maritime sulfur emissions. So that underscores the necessity of the regulations. Nevertheless, they also do pose an unprecedented cost and compliance challenge to the shipping industry. So let me give you a quick recap of the regulations. Today, vessels can run on low sulfur bunker to meet the 1% emission standards within the ECAs. In just 3.5 months, January 2015, a new stringent emission standard of 0.1% will be imposed on IMO's ECAs. That includes waters off the North American coast, the North Sea, and the Baltic Sea. And on the high seas, the limit will be reduced from 3.5% to 0.5% by 2020 and by 2025 at latest, depending on IMO's decision by 2018. So the challenges this brings to the shipping industry is both of a technical nature as well as a political and competitive nature. So let's first talk about the technical aspects. Come January, the only readily available drop-in solution to this is to switch fuel to MGO, marine gas oil. That is a low sulfur product. It is also a very different fuel than normal bunker oil. So a lot of companies not used to it will face technical challenges on the vessels. And then there is the price. For a long time, MGO have been trading at about 50% higher price than normal bunker fuel. And with the increased demand in 2015, we can only expect that to increase further. So let me give you a practical example of what that means. So if the differential continues to be at around $300 per ton, and the vessel consumes somewhere between 40 and 70 tons per day, depending on the size and the speed, etc., of the vessel, the cost we're talking about increased is $10,000 to $20,000 per day per vessel. So, as a responsible shipping company, we cannot just sit back and rely on MGO to ensure the most cost-effective way to meet these regulations. I found MGO is just one strand of a four-stream approach. So the second stream to us is low sulfur bunker, and for more than 10 years now, WWL have been running our fleet on a self-imposed sulfur limit of 1.5%. And because of our long experience, we were the partner of choice for Exxon to do full-scale sea trials of what has become the first fully approved ultra-low sulfur fuel oil, ULSFO. So that's a great step forward, but more players are needed in that market to address concerns around price and availability. A third stream is Exxon's gas cleaning systems, also called scrubbers. So these remove the sulfur from the vessel exhaust fumes on board, which allows you to continue to run on normal bunker oil. However, there are still many questions around which scrubbers will be accepted and what the effectiveness are. So for some time now, we've been running a full-scale scrubber installations on board one of our vessels and a test project, the MS Torago, together with suppliers and research institutes. And The level of complexity that we have met in those projects have just by far surpassed any expectations we had. So installing a scrubber is a little bit like doing an open heart surgery on a vessel. It's not easy and it's very expensive. So the third stream, and for the longer term, are alternative fuels. So fuel cells and biofuels, etc., are all being explored, but it will take time to get the scale and efficiency out of them. What we believe is the most viable option is LNG, as that is started to be used on short sea vessels, and we see the infrastructure of LNG supplies is starting to be built. But there are still issues around onboard storage. LNG is stored at around minus 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and the density of LNG is only half or a third of bunker oils. It requires more space. So each of these four streams have their own unique set of technical challenges. Then on the regulatory and political front, the key issue is this. If the regulations are properly implemented, then compliance is the norm and competition is not distorted. However, if enforcement is weak, then a temptation is created to cut corners, and of course, if the financial rewards are large, that's more likely to happen. So today, compliance testing in the European ECA is in the range of 1 out of 1,000 vessels, so 0.1%. And according to the European Commission, half of those vessels are in violation of the sulphur regulations. And there are no plans for how to implement the upcoming regulations. So, responsible shipping companies that follow laws and regulations as a matter of course are then, of course, put at a disadvantage relative to those that intentionally are non-compliant. And a 50% cost saving on fuel is a pretty strong incentive to cheat if the risk of getting caught is low and the fines are negligible. So, and of course also the regulations will then not have the intended impact on the environment and human health. So as you may know, WWL and other like-minded shipping companies have for long been pretty vocal in the public debate on this, and having raised this in a number of forums, we found widespread support for robust enforcement. And based on that, we initiated what we named the Trident Alliance, which is a coalition working to bring about robust enforcement. And in just a few months, the Trident Alliance has amassed some 15 member companies, representing about 10% of the world bunker and fuel consumption. And it is already actively working in projects with authorities and other stakeholders around the world to promote the awareness of this issue, as well as advanced technology for monitoring, etc. So this does concern you. The success of the shipping industry in dealing with these matters will have an impact on your supply chains in terms of cost and integrity. And we believe the way to handle this is through a partnership approach. And as shippers, you can have a great impact on this issue by putting clear requirements on your suppliers and following them up. So I would very much like to invite you to collaborate with the Trident Alliance, well knowing that you have been through some of these journeys before. So your inputs and ideas are very much welcome. Thank you.